Most people treat boundaries like they're a personality trait, something reserved for confident people, outspoken people, or people who don't mind conflict, as if boundaries are nice to have once you're healed enough, secure enough, or strong enough. They're not. Boundaries are survival skills. If you don't set boundaries, other people and your own impulses will run your life for you. Not maliciously, not dramatically, just gradually, quietly, and consistently. And by the time you realize what's happening, you're exhausted, resentful, and wondering how your life filled up with things you never actually chose. Today, we're going to strip boundaries down to their simplest, most practical truths, because boundaries don't control other people. They control access to you. And once you understand that, everything about them becomes clearer and a lot less emotional. Here are 8 truths about boundaries that will allow you to have them and not feel guilty. Truth number 1, a boundary is not a fence, it's a filter. A boundary is not a wall. It's not something you build to shut the world out. It's a filter, something that decides what gets through and what doesn't. Healthy boundaries keep out disrespect, overwhelm, manipulation, obligation, guilt-driven decisions, energy drain, chaos, and unnecessary stress. And at the same time, they protect what stays in: your peace, stability, clarity, dignity, emotional safety, time, energy, and your self-respect. You're not shutting people out. You're keeping yourself safe. And that distinction matters because most of us resist boundaries not because we think they're mean, but because we were never taught we were allowed to protect ourselves in the first place. What makes boundaries so uncomfortable for people is the belief that they're extreme, that if you set one, you are rejecting the other person entirely. But filters don't eliminate everything. They refine. They allow what's supportive and block what's harmful. And that's exactly what healthy boundaries do. When you don't have filters, everything comes through. Every request, every emotion, every expectation, every crisis. Your nervous system never gets a break because it's constantly processing input it was never meant to carry. Boundaries reduce that load. They simplify decision-making. They tell your brain, not everything is my responsibility. This is why boundaries don't make you rigid. They make you functional. They allow you to stay open without being exposed. And that's the difference between connection and depletion. Truth number 2. Most people don't lack boundaries. They lack permission. People don't struggle with boundaries because they don't understand them. They struggle because they don't feel allowed to have them. Their internal dialogue sounds like this: I don't want to hurt their feelings. I don't want to seem rude. I don't want to be selfish. I don't want to disappoint anyone. I don't want conflict. So instead of saying no, they say yes, again and again and again, until suddenly their calendar is full, their energy is gone, and their life feels like it belongs to everyone but them. But here's the truth. Saying yes to everyone else is saying no to yourself. Every unintentional yes costs you something: time, energy, focus, peace. Boundaries aren't about being harsh. They're about being honest with yourself. A lot of people were taught directly or indirectly that having needs was inconvenient, that saying no was rude, that protecting themselves meant being difficult. So they learned to override their own limits before anyone else had to. Over time, that creates an internal conflict. Your body feels overwhelmed, but your mouth keeps agreeing. Your energy drops, but your behavior doesn't change. And eventually, you start resenting situations you never consciously chose. Boundaries give you permission to align your actions with your reality. They let your outer life match your inner limits. And when those two finally line up, the constant tension people feel starts to ease. Truth number 3, your time, energy, and sanity are finite. You only get so many hours in a day, so much mental capacity, so much emotional space, And if you don't protect those things, they don't stay unused. They get taken. Not because people are evil, but because people are focused on their own needs. If you're available, they'll use your availability. If you're flexible, they'll bend your flexibility. If you're forgiving, they'll rely on your forgiveness. Not consciously, not maliciously, just predictably. People treat you according to what you allow. Boundaries teach people how to treat you, not through confrontation, but through consistency. One of the most important things to understand is that limits exist whether you acknowledge them or not. Time runs out, energy depletes, emotional capacity gets exhausted. Boundaries don't create limits, they reveal them. When you ignore those limits, your body enforces them for you through burnout, irritability, shutdown, or anxiety. Boundaries are a way of honoring these limits early instead of paying for it later. This is why boundaries are preventative, not reactive. They stop problems before they form. They protect your future self from unnecessary damage, and that's an act of self-respect. Truth number 4, boundaries prevent resentment. Resentment doesn't come from giving. It comes from overgiving, from saying yes when you mean no, from letting people interrupt your time, drain your energy, cross lines, dictate your emotional state, or assume access they haven't earned. Then something subtle happens. You start feeling irritated by people you care about. You feel guilty for feeling irritated. You feel ashamed for wanting space. And the cycle continues. Resentment isn't a moral failure. It's a signal. It's what happens when your internal limits don't match your external behavior. Boundaries don't make you unkind. They make you honest. Resentment builds when your sacrifices go unseen, especially by yourself. Every time you override your own needs to keep the peace, you send a message that your comfort is negotiable. Over time, that message turns inward. You don't resent others because they asked. You resent yourself because you didn't answer honestly. Boundaries correct that imbalance. They allow generosity to come from choices instead of pressure. When you give freely instead of compulsively, resentment has nothing to attach to, and relationships become lighter, clearer, and more sustainable. Truth number 5, good boundaries only take a few words. One of the biggest misconceptions about boundaries is that they require drama, speeches, or explanations. They don't. Good boundaries sound boring. They sound like, no thank you. I'm not available. I can't do that today. That doesn't work for me. I'm not discussing that. I have plans. I need space. Short, clear, calm, complete. And here's the part people struggle with the most. You don't owe an explanation. Explanations invite negotiation. Boundaries are statements, not debates. Clarity feels uncomfortable at first because it removes wiggle room. And wiggle room is where people-pleasing hides, but simplicity is what makes boundaries effective. When you keep responses short, your nervous system stays regulated. You don't escalate. You don't spiral. You don't over-justify. You state and you move on. This isn't being cold. It's being efficient. And over time, people adjust, not because you convince them, but because consistency teaches faster than words ever could. Truth number 6, boundaries are about controlling you. Boundaries are not tools for controlling other people. You can't force anyone to behave differently. You can't force respect. You can't force change. You can't force someone to do the right thing. But you can control who gets your time, who gets your energy, who gets your emotional access, who gets a place in your life, who stays close, who gets distance. Boundaries aren't about managing them. They're about containing you. And when you stop trying to control outcomes and start protecting your limits, your life gets quieter in the best possible way. Trying to manage other people's reactions is exhausting. It keeps you constantly on edge and emotionally entangled. Boundaries shift your focus back to where it belongs, onto your own life. Instead of asking, how do I make them understand? You ask, What am I available for? That single shift removes an enormous amount of mental strain. When you stop managing outcomes and start managing access, your life becomes simpler, quieter, more intentional, and far less reactive. Truth number 7, expect resistance from the wrong people. When you start setting boundaries, 2 things happen. Healthy people respect them. Unhealthy people complain. People who benefited from your lack of boundaries will feel uncomfortable when you develop them. That discomfort is not evidence that you're doing something wrong. It's information. It tells you exactly who was relying on your self-abandonment to feel comfortable. Don't confuse someone's reaction to your boundary with the validity of the boundary itself. If someone gets angry because you're protecting your peace, they're the reason the boundary was necessary. Resistance is not always loud. Sometimes it shows up as guilt, passive comments, subtle pressure, disappointment designed to pull you back into old patterns. This is where consistency matters. Boundaries don't work because you explain them well. They work because you hold them calmly over time. And the people who respect you adjust. The people who don't reveal themselves. That information is valuable. It helps you decide who can be close and who needs distance, without drama and without blame. Truth number 8, your most important boundary, peace. Think of your peace like property, like a house you live inside. It has rooms, doors, locks, and windows. You don't just let anyone wander through. You decide who gets inside, how far they get, how long they stay, when they need to leave. Your peace has value, and when you start treating it that way, your decisions change. You stop over-explaining. You stop negotiating with discomfort. You stop sacrificing yourself to keep the peace, and instead, you protect it. Peace isn't passive, it's active. It's something you maintain, not something you wait for. When you treat your peace like property, you stop letting chaos wander through uninvited. This doesn't mean isolation, it means discernment. You choose interactions that add stability instead of noise. You choose conversations that feel safe instead of draining. And slowly, life starts to feel less like something you're bracing against and more like something you're living inside. What boundaries give you back? Boundaries return 3 things people don't realize they've been losing. 1, time. Hours you didn't know were being drained. 2, energy. Emotional bandwidth you thought was just who you are. 3, self-respect. The quiet pride that comes from not abandoning yourself. Boundaries don't restrict your life. They create freedom. The freedom to choose. The freedom to rest. The freedom to live deliberately instead of reactively. What surprises most people is how much energy returns once boundaries are in place. You're not constantly preparing for interruptions. You're not rehearsing explanations. You're not recovering from emotional overexertion. That reclaimed energy shows up as clarity, patience, and presence. You become more effective with less effort, and that efficiency is deeply stabilizing. Boundaries don't shrink your life. They give it room to breathe. And the rules are simple. If it costs you your peace, it's too expensive. That applies to people, commitments, conversations, opportunities, plans, relationships, responsibilities, and environments. All of it. When something consistently drains you, the price is too high. Boundaries don't remove responsibility. They lower the cost of living your life. Peace is a form of currency, and like any currency, it needs to be spent wisely. If something consistently costs more peace than it gives value, it's unsustainable. Boundaries are how you rebalance that equation. They don't eliminate difficulty. They prevent unnecessary loss. And over time, that protection compounds. This is how you build a life that feels affordable to live in. And this is what I want you to take away. Boundaries aren't about becoming cold, rigid, or difficult. They're about building a life that fits you. not one shaped by guilt, pressure, fear, or other people's expectations. A life shaped by clarity, stability, respect, protection, intention, and peace. That's the life you're building here, and boundaries are how you build it. I've linked a companion PDF below to help you identify where your boundaries are leaking and how to reinforce them without guilt or over-explanation. We aren't trying to control people. We're creating freedom by intent. Take what resonates, leave what doesn't, and I will see you in the next one.